Hey everyone, thank you for joining me in our second video about functions. In this video we will be covering some of the Python built-in functions. Last time we went over the length function, so print len of a string, so hello. And again, this function would take in a string as input, in this example hello, and return to us the length of that string. So for example here, this is 5 characters. And so if we run this, we'll see that it prints out 5. This is just one of the many functions that Python provides us, so let's look at a couple of examples. Another function that Python provides us is the ABS function, and this function stands for absolute value. And what it does is it takes in a number and returns the absolute value of that number, which is just another fancy word for the positive version of that number. So for example, if we send in 3, well, let me comment this first line out, but this is simply just 3, because the absolute value of 3 is 3. So it takes in 3, converts it to the absolute value, which is just 3, and then returns that, so we'll just see 3. But if we sent in a negative number, such as negative 33, this would take in that number, convert it to the absolute value, and instead return 33, not negative 33. Another function we see is the max function. And the max function takes in 2 numbers, such as 2 and 3, and returns the larger of the 2. So this is the first function we're looking at that takes in 2 inputs, but then returns one output. If we run this, we see that it prints out 3. Another function we often see is actually the min function, which is max's counterpart. Oops. And that, instead of saying max, we can say min, and this will take this and return the smaller of the 2 inputs. So in this case, 2. The last function I want to show you today is the int function. And the int function takes in a string, let's say 5, and tries to convert that into a number. So if we run this, we'll see that this is just 5. But to prove that it's a number and not a string, I can add another number to it now. So I can say int 5 plus 2, and so we'll see that it now prints out 7. If we tried to do the same thing without first using this int function to convert it, we would get an error because, well, I can't add the number 2 to the string 5. That doesn't make sense. And so we'll throw an error. The other thing I want to show you with this int function is that, so when we send it 5, it behaves nicely. It just sends us the numerical version of that back. But what if we tried to send it the string high? Well, then this would throw an error because it tries to take this input and convert it to an integer, but it can't. It doesn't know how to handle that high. So instead, it returns an error and says it says invalid literal because it doesn't know how to convert this high into a number. And so again, our functions will take in. You can send it your function anything you want, but a lot of times, if the function isn't built to handle that type of input, it will throw an error instead of actually returning the desired output. This is an example of a couple of the built-in functions in Python. There is a whole suite of other ones that you can go look into simply by Googling Python built-in functions, and I'll include a link to that in the description of this video. In our next video, we'll be covering how we can use function chaining to use some of these functions in interesting ways and together. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.